Welcome, everyone, and thanks for joining us this afternoon. Again, I am Ellie Garrity. I'm the manager of Alumni Career Programs with the Alumni Association. Thanks for joining us for our third and sadly our final Maryland Masterclass with Danny Rubin, How to Write Emails Like a Pro. If you're joining us for the first time, welcome. If this is your third time here with us, we're so glad you came back. But I'll keep it short and sweet today and let Danny do an intro of himself and get things started for you. Go ahead, Danny.
Sure. Thanks, Ellie. Thanks for letting me be part of this series of Zoom webinars. And thanks everybody who's come before. Those of you who are here for the first time, welcome. I'll do a brief intro for those of you who haven't heard it yet. I'm sure some of you can probably say it for me by now, but just give you some background on who I am and what we're gonna cover today. We're covering a whole different set of topics today. We're doing emailing, and there's a million ways to slice and dice email writing. I mean, it's such a broad topic, but again, what I'm going to try and share with all of you are some practical, actionable tips to make your writing better. And you can apply those skills to emails and even other documents and writing challenges too. But you can think of it in the context of writing emails and just being more effective at getting your message across and making your emails, quite frankly, more enjoyable to read. Nobody likes to go through their inbox and go through their emails, but if your emails were written so well that they were pleasant to go through and easy to respond to, and that's what we want to come out of this session with today. I'll mention the books in a minute. Well, they're all on Amazon. I'll show you the books in just a second. And Alexander, I'm still waiting to see your follow-up. You can't tease us like that. You can't say you got a job north of Grumman from our LinkedIn webinar techniques and then not tell us what happened. So now we're waiting for your response in the chat. When it comes, I'll stop and we'll look at it. Okay, great. All right, so my name is Danny Rubin. My company is called RUBIN, and we are an online curriculum provider for business communication skills, working with middle schools, high schools, universities, even corporate training, providing online skills training for writing and speaking skills. And email etiquette and email writing is really right our bailiwick. We go right at that topic. So we're going to do some skills out of our material today. I have a master's degree from the University of Maryland in broadcast journalism back in 2007, undergraduate, University of Virginia. I live in Virginia Beach, Virginia. My first job after Maryland was a TV news reporter. I went to Maryland to become and train to become a TV news reporter, and that's what I did. I worked for a CBS TV affiliate in Virginia, and then I went back up to Washington, D.C. I worked for a consulting firm and provided guidance and research and show prep to different clients, including NBC News, and more specifically, Meet the Press, helping with that show while David Gregory was the host. He's not the host right now. Came back down to Virginia Beach, have worked in public relations the past 7 years, helping clients with their messaging and their communication. And all along the way, I've sort of this entrepreneurial itch or this passion project has evolved into a full-blown educational company with students around the country using these instructional methods in various classrooms, and it's really empowering and it's fulfilling. And what I'm showing you, yes, students use this, but it's also designed for professionals. It's not written for children or for teens. It just can be applicable that way because I try to write everything in a very plain manner, not complicated, not tangled. And that's really what I'm trying to show you today, to write and communicate in that same way, no matter who reads what you're writing, a 12-year-old, a 52-year-old, an 82-year-old, the message is going to come through. And that's the hallmark of good writing, is that anybody can handle it. And they're not going to struggle through figuring out your message. I'm on Twitter and Instagram. If you're interested in either one, that's me. Give a shout. Love to talk to you on those channels. Fuller had asked, I talked about these on the last 2 webinars. I've written 3 books over the past 5 years. That's a whole nother conversation on writing books. That could be another webinar series. It's a lot of work, but a labor of love. And each of these books are is a collection of writing and speaking templates, examples, blueprints, scripts, covering a wide array of topics. The Blue Book, Wait, How Do I Write This Email? Writing and speaking skills for career development, networking, LinkedIn, thank you notes, reference requests, all the writing around opening doors. The green, Wait, How Do I Promote My Business? Writing and speaking skills for entrepreneurship, learning to do the writing side of spreading the word about a business. Writing and speaking skills. The third book, Wait, How Do I Lead My Team? Leadership and management writing skills. There are 8 million books on Amazon about leadership, but very few actually talk about how you craft messages to your team, to assign responsibility, to provide constructive criticism, to communicate effectively with a client, to give updates. That's where rubber meets the road with leadership and management, is you have to put words in an email, in a draft, in a presentation. You have to stand before people and speak. So my approach, my focus is always on that actionable, practical instruction. We'll talk a little bit about high-level strategy. Then we're going to get right into doing something. Because, as Alexander said, we can talk all day about how LinkedIn's really great and LinkedIn's going to really help you. But until you put the right strategy to use by writing something on LinkedIn, it's not going to open a door. So we have to get beyond the aspirational and the motivational to the nitty gritty. And that's what these workshops have been. And that's why I appreciate people coming back, because it's just real substance. And that's what we teach, what we provide. And I'm glad that resonates with you. So what we do as an overview, we have an online platform called Emerge, which is used in corporate settings as well as classrooms and career service offices. And it's taken on an enhanced meaning in the last 6 weeks, with every student and employee in the world being sent home. And having reliable distance learning resources has become a major, major issue. And so we're excited about that prospect, frankly, because it's kind of the way we were built. We have online courses for working professionals. I'll share that at the very end if you're interested in leveling up some skills beyond this webinar series. And we have a free Facebook community for young professionals called Aspire. So if anybody would like to be part of our community, we try to have guests, Q&As, we provide more templates and guides and discussion. Young professional is a loose term, 20s, 40s, 50-ish, you're as young as you feel. But if you'd like to be part of that conversation and that community, go on Facebook and just type Aspire with RUBIN. You'll find it, request to join, we'll let you in. All right, so that's what I have been building. I know in our own ways, we're all building, we're all working towards something. And for me, it's been working towards a company that teaches people how to communicate, not just as a good writer, but as a good person, somebody who's thoughtful, self-aware, authentic. That's what I want this instruction to feel like for all of you. I hope it has so far. And I hope that you're also using this time, if you have any downtime, to work on something that inspires you. Work on something that makes you happy. Maybe one less Netflix binge, maybe one more project helping you to kind of build your next chapter, make that pivot out of this quarantine into something you may not have considered or had the time for, but this is the time. So please use this moment to take these skills, others that you're gaining, and use it to launch yourself into this sort of next phase that we're all going to be in. This is really a golden opportunity if we look at it the right way. So what are we going to do today? We're going to write emails like a pro. We're going to cover 5 different topics. Time permitting, we can touch on a couple other things, do a Q&A, have a dialogue, but I want us to hit these topics, and I put them in order, in a particular order for a reason, and we're going to kind of build up and learn sort of how emails are composed, sort of the guts of good writing, and then practice a certain real world business scenario. A couple of them, actually. So we're going to first talk about how to improve your writing in 3 minutes. It's a short little guide that you can print out and stick on your desk, or just have it as a reference somewhere quick to go through any document or any email you're about to send out to somebody and tighten up your writing in just a few minutes. It's a simple little exercise that'll make you be more critical of the work that you are doing. I think, being a good writer means being a good editor and not being satisfied with the first draft, second draft, third draft, fourth, maybe even the fifth. You have to be willing to let things go and understand that less is always more with effective business communication. We're then going to learn, on the flip side, we're going to cut out the words we don't need by editing ourselves. Then we're going to make sure we include the words we do to add more vivid detail to anything that we're writing. And we'll go through an exercise around that as well. What I'm essentially training you to do is to communicate like a journalist. Be pithy, be brief, realize that you have limited space. Your editor said you cannot only go this many column inches or this many words. You can't go past that. So what's it going to be? What's going to go? We're going to go into number 3, learning how to remove pronouns. Another little simple fix that can make everything we write clearer, more understandable, more precise. Pronouns are a problem in business communication. And even I catch myself every day having to correct a mistake by going back and editing my work, never sending it before I give it a hard look over. Then we're going to go into sort of email composition, thinking broadly about an email at large, and understanding a concept that is innate in the military. If anybody here is former military or even active duty or veteran, whatever you are, bottom line up front. Maybe Alexander has learned this term before. Well, there you go. You got the job at Northrop Grumman, so went to the defense contracting side. Bottom line up front is commonly used in the military. BLUF, put your main point high up so I can see it. I don't have time to sort through your message and figure out what you're trying to tell me. And that strategy is applicable in everything we write to anybody. We're sending somebody an email because we need something from them. We have a mission, a directive, an objective, and we must learn to put it higher up in the message. So we're going to talk about that. And then we're going to focus on a real life business case, learning how to send an effective email to recap a team after a meeting, conference call, a Zoom webinar, a Zoom chat. How do you send that follow-up so everybody knows what to do next? It'll help you think through a lot of the lessons we've been talking about, and then how to be a clear communicator and appear as a leader and a good sort of task manager and someone who knows how to keep moving projects down the line. So we're going to end with sort of a scenario and build up by learning different techniques. All right. So let's hop in. And I know we're going to make this PowerPoint available after the fact, so you don't need to grab screenshots. You're welcome to, but this will all be available. But let's talk about, and by the way, while you're doing this, while you're sitting there, let me hop up before you start reading. You're welcome to take out an email that you've written recently, something that was, had a few different paragraphs, had some substance to it, and use it to refer back to some of the things we're talking about and see how your email matches up with these techniques, how it can be tweaked, improved. So feel free to just grab something and use it as a reference. So you're looking at your own work and being critical about your own writing. That's the number one takeaway from this webinar today. Is you have to be critical about what you're writing. You cannot act like you write it once, you send it off, or you're in charge, you're the boss, you're the manager. It doesn't matter what I write. They're going to have to read it anyway. That is not true. You have to respect the reader's time and put thought into your words. It's not enough to just say, I don't have time to edit this. I just got to send it. They'll figure it out. Not the case. People are busier than ever sitting at home with a million emails, a million calls. We have to cut through the noise. All right, so let's talk about improve your writing in 3 minutes. What does that mean? Here's what I want you to do from now on. When you finish your document or an email, I want you to bring up the search function on your computer. And then I want you to look for the words in this bulleted list, and you're either going to delete them or replace them with other words. Let's go through this list. The first 3, very, just, really. Find those words and get them out of there. Adverbs in general, ly words, have little value. Let me give you an example. It is highly unlikely that adding an adverb to your sentence will make a difference. Now, what if I took out highly and I said, it is unlikely? Does the sentence change meaning? By saying just unlikely, does it mean it's less unlikely than if it's highly unlikely? No. We add these words out of habit, and they add no value. They just add words and time for the reader to get to the end. So you want to find your adverbs. Those first three are the biggest culprit, and delete them. You will instantly make your work better. And there's another adverb right there. You will make your work better, right? It's hard. We do it when we talk. But when we're writing, we can stop as best we can and cut them out. The next one, the word that. Another word that journalists often will remove for space and time consideration. I believe that you are correct. Now say that line without the word that. Say it to yourself. If we remove the word that, is the sentence still fine? Yes, of course. And think how many times we may use the word that in a long email or 1,000-word document or a big PowerPoint. Find the word. If it makes sense to remove the word, remove it. The next word, another adverb, but I pull it out on its own because my opinion, one man's opinion, when we use a word, the word quite, we're trying to sound smart. And what we don't want to do in business correspondence is use words that we don't use in general conversation, pulling words we don't often say to people so that we look smarter. It has the adverse effect. Get rid of quite. You likely won't need another word to replace it at all. It'll just be gone. We want to use proper grammar, but we want to be ourselves. The word thing. Too vague, too nondescript. Replace the word thing with the noun in question. And this speaks to our topic we'll get to in a few minutes around pronouns. You never, ever make the reader have to stop and say, what are they talking about? What thing? What's this? What's that? We're going to get to that topic in a moment. We need to answer whatever question they might have before they have to ask it. That's good communication. We do not have the time to answer their questions. We're not available to, they're like, oh, they have a quick question. And it's annoying to have to write that back and have to wait for a reply. Have it answered through your words. The word utilize, another word that I think we use to sound smart. Why not use? Or maybe there's another verb, because use and utilize are overused anyway. Too much utilize, it's too fancy, it's unnecessary. The words get or got in the same vein. Those two verbs take the place of so many actions. They're often considered crutch verbs. If you spend another 10 seconds, think about a better action that's taking place than get or got. Those words make our work and our writing boring. I'm not saying use a verb that you pulled from the thesaurus that no one's ever heard of. There are many verbs that we all can use, that we all know, that are more interesting than get or got. And a classic move by a journalist and authors is we don't want to repeat the same words over and over, especially in the same paragraph. We want to vary our word choice. It makes our writing more interesting. The last one, we're going to spend another slide on this because I want to make sure we drive home this topic, because this is where the word count balloons the most. ING verbs. The boy is running. Why not the boy runs? Because we use is running out of habit. Is running, 3 syllables. Runs, 1. Let me give you a better example. At my most recent job, I was responsible for managing projects, working with clients, and overseeing our budget. Now, let's remove those 3 INGs. At my most recent job, I managed projects, worked with clients, oversaw our budget. The original sentence has 18 words and 31 syllables. Revised, 15 words, 22 syllables. Also, can someone go to the chat? Tell me, how does that second sentence feel compared to the first? What is the tone, the vibe that it gives off? That second sentence. Much more professional, says Jessica. Accomplished. Yeah. More authoritative, stronger. That's right. That's right. So the words that, when we cut out ing, not only do we save the reader time, but look at some of those attributes, those qualities, those feelings that you all put in the chat. You're saving someone time and you feel more authoritative, more direct, stronger, more professional. So you have two things going on. There are two benefits to this approach. So when you go back through your work, and again, I make this mistake too all the time. It's just writing kind of stream of consciousness, is doing this, has been doing that. I go back, nope. How do I get the ing out of there? How do I make it that active verb without the ings, without the has been doing this, what, should have been doing that, should have done, right? You will find this particular, say, mistake or habit so many times in your writing. It's nobody's fault. It's not a huge blunder. And most people will send off a message and never think twice about it, but you're on this webinar. And I hope from now on, you do think about this approach, because it will reduce the word count and it will make you more professional. Okay, let's keep moving and get through some other topics. Unless there are any questions on this, hopefully it's clear and you can look back at these slides. This is drawn out of the first chapter in the blue book I showed you. We have a whole chapter on fixes to our writing. I'm showing you another one right here, next one, called Add Layers to Your Writing. All right, so follow me. I just told you to take stuff out. Words we don't need. Now I'm going to show you words we do need. And we have to live in that balance. We need to be spare, but we have to be vivid. And a good writer knows how to do both. Cut out what you don't need, include what you do. So let me read this through to you. After college, I taught English at a school in rural China. Now we picture the person in a remote location. I should have said the first, so they said rural China, all right? But, so now we know that I left off, the very first line was I taught English at a school in China. So they add a detail, rural China, okay? But that's not enough, okay? That's not vivid enough. Rural China is not enough. China's a big place, right? So let's add another layer. After college, I taught English speaking skills at a school in rural China. Okay, so now we're adding a layer of detail. So now we're getting a different vision in our mind. Okay, now we envision a person teaching a class of people to speak the English language. Now, after college, I taught English speaking skills to a group of 25 school-age boys at a school in rural China. Prior to that, we didn't know who the person was teaching to. Now we can visualize a classroom, right? So every time we add a layer, the sentence becomes more interesting, more descriptive. The plot thickens. Now let's go to the next slide. After college, I taught English speaking skills for 1 year to a group of 25 school-age boys at a school in rural China. So now we put a parameter on it. How long? 1 year. And lastly, after college, I taught English speaking skills for 1 year to a group of 25 school-age boys at a school in rural China, more than 1,000 miles from the nearest major city. So now we know how remote it was. So we start with a sentence that says, after college, I taught English in China. And we end with the sentence you see here. Now, which sentence is more interesting? Certainly the second one. When you're telling your story, when you're writing that cover letter, when you're writing that project summary about what you encountered, what you did, these details matter. The excess words, the adverbs, the pronouns, they don't help. But these nouns and the detail, they do matter. And so when you're thinking about yourself and describing yourself or the work you do, you need to think that you're interviewing yourself like a journalist. Let's look back at this completed sentence. sort of who, what, when, where, why, and how. So how long, how many students, where did this take place, what were you teaching, right? If you can fill out the who, what, when, where, why, and how, which is like a fifth grade, exercise, really, maybe even earlier than that, it matters in the business world too. And this is what journalists do. Whenever you read a caption in the Washington Post, they'll put all the pertinent details of that story in the caption. So if all you read was the caption, you know the story. They're telling you the place, the date, the person's name in the picture, what was going on, why it mattered, right? So you need to think about your life on that level. Am I including layers that not only are interesting to read, but also help to explain my story in full? I'm not telling you to write an entire book about your year in China. I'm asking you to think about the details around the moment. So if you're writing that caption, someone's giving you 12 seconds, you have to hit on all the points that matter so they have all the information. So there's a distinction between editing ourselves and removing words that don't matter and thinking hard about the words that do. And this is what you'll find when you read somebody from the AP, the New York Times, Washington Post, Vanity Fair. Good writers, Sports Illustrated, good writers cut out the excess, include the good stuff. And I'm trying to help you think about it in basic terms, because I know we're not all hardcore writers where we just write all day. We may be doing all kinds of jobs, but writing is essential and central to whatever we're doing. I do want to, should we avoid superlatives, more, greater? Well, you may need a superlative to explain if something is more or less than something else. I'm not saying don't use those types of words to show quantities or distinctions, but adverbs are a problem. We use them out of habit and they make no impact on the reader. All right. So again, I'm starting off with cutting stuff out, adding good stuff in. Simply as I can do it. Now, let's get to the pronouns. Let's talk about removing pronouns and put some color behind what I was saying a few minutes ago. The person starts a new paragraph with, one reason I did that is because I need the right skills to be competitive. In the writer's mind, the sentence is fine. Of course, that refers to the previous paragraph and the decision to obtain a master's in sustainable design from Big State University, but not so fast. Readers need constant guidance, and a nondescript pronoun leads them astray. The sentence should be, one reason I obtained the master's degree is because I need the right skills to be competitive. Whether you're starting a new paragraph or not, think hard. Would the reader right away understand what word or words this pronoun refers to? The only time it's safe, generally, is if you use the noun in the front of the sentence and the pronoun in the second half of the sentence. And even then, I wouldn't necessarily assume the reader knows what word you're talking about. You may even need to say the word twice in the sentence if it feels like they might not know, but certainly in a following sentence and always in a new paragraph. Do not start a new paragraph with a pronoun. This time showed me. That experience proved to me. No. Name the experience. The internship experience proved to me. Speak and write in concrete terms, and you will not lose the reader. Many times the reader will become confused and not care enough to write you back and ask what word that pronoun represented. They just won't care. They won't know, or your writing took too long to get through, and the moment's gone. So I want you to think about every pronoun that pops up in your emails. Look hard at it and ask yourself, do I need to replace that pronoun with the word I intend for them to understand? Okay. Here's another quick editing exercise, just as a starting point. Hit the search function, look for these pronouns, this, that, these, and those. Just start there. I wrote that to prove a point. I wrote the grammar lesson to prove a point. Sally gave me this to say thanks. Sally gave me the present to say thanks. The Millers need these for the vacation. The Millers need the house keys for the vacation. John handed me those to be helpful. John handed me the hammer and nails to be helpful. Okay? It's critical to evaluate your pronoun usage. And I have a list at the bottom. Look, I know, again, this is like 5th grade, right? What is this guy telling me? It's like 5th grade English. Well, guess what? The stuff that matters then matters now. We forget it. We just forget it. I'm sure many of us are struggling to help our children with their math homework right now because we haven't done it in a long time. We learned it back then for a reason. It matters today. Other pronouns, I, it, well, not I, I'm sorry. It, who, her, you, we, them, us, he, you, me, she, they, them. Check for these pronouns. Look for them, search for them, scan for them. At the end of an email, if you go through the editing exercise we talked about, adding detail to provide greater context around our experiences, cutting out pronouns, hey, you're in a pretty good spot. That email is rounding into shape. And I hope that you don't think of these techniques as adding an hour to your day. These are designed to be quick look over lessons and editing techniques, but they matter. And in total, these techniques will make for a stronger message. And we're just focusing on the words right now, not so much on composition. But I do want to spend a little time on the email composition. And I mentioned a few minutes ago, this bottom line up front. Are there any questions about what I'm showing you so far? Again, I hope you view it as practical, actionable, something you could stick next to your desk at home or at work one day and refer to. What was that writing tip that guy from Maryland webinar said? Oh, yeah. Search for those words. Okay. Yeah, I apologize. That I there was like a typo. I need to focus on the other pronouns. I think it got in there in error. You would use I talking about yourself. You wouldn't talk about yourself in the third person. I'm not advocating that, so don't do that. That's something I should have mentioned on the LinkedIn session, is to write your LinkedIn profile in the first person. I don't like the approach when people write about themselves in the third person. Danny Rubin is a blah, blah, blah. It's like, we all know that I wrote that bio myself, right? It wasn't a PR manager that I have that wrote it for me. So let's speak from the first person, speak from where we stand, be ourselves, be approachable. Writing about ourselves on LinkedIn or otherwise in the third person, not like a website staff bio, that needs to be your name, but on a profile page, say it through, I do this. It makes you much more approachable to when people are checking you out. Sorry, a bit of an aside. All right, bottom line up front. I want to show you an example of an email, and I'm going to ask you a question at the end. I'm going to read it out. We'll answer at the end. Subject line, hoping to reconnect. Hi, John. I hope all is well. As a reminder, I'm Jim Langford, Vice President of Product Development at Acme Corporation. For the past 9 years, we've been an industry leader in emergency medical equipment and now provide supplies to 24 hospitals in the Pacific Northwest. Here's a short video that chronicles our growth and plans for the coming year. In fact, you might even recognize the place where we shot video, the park right outside your offices. And here's a big profile story we landed in the Daily News. We are proud of the coverage because it shows how far we've come. I'm writing you now to tell you about our newest product, the Acme Device 2000. It's a smarter, more efficient way to manage patient data across multiple medical centers. I think your team will appreciate what we've created. Here's a quick breakdown. Please let me know if you'd like to talk further about Acme Device 2000. I'm happy to set up a phone call when it's convenient for you. Thanks, Jim Langford. All right, so what do we notice about this email? What stands out to you? And the headline of this page should make it clear, but you tell me what you see or what you heard or felt. Somebody go to the chat and tell me what they noticed. Should start with the purpose. Say why you're reaching out. Thank you, Holly. Too often, we start writing, basically talking, blah, 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 and we don't get to our point. Why are you writing me? What do you want to tell me? That's right, Terry. The ask is at the end. And we often do this approach. We put the ask at the end out of nervousness, unsure of what we want to ask for, almost like, okay, thanks for reading me. Oh, by the way, can you look at my product? Bye. Not being declarative, assertive. Right out of the gate, I'm writing you for this reason. And then all the information will fall under the ask and provide context around why you're asking. In this way, he's talking about all the achievements of his product, but doesn't say why he's writing this person. So it's backwards. So let's look at this email flipped. And I put the ask, the bottom line, in bold, so you can't miss it. As a reminder, I'm Jim Langford, Vice President of Product Development at Acme Corporation. I'm writing to tell you about our newest product, the Acme Device 2000. It's a smarter, more efficient way to manage patient data across multiple medical centers. I think your team will appreciate what we've created. Here's a quick breakdown. Then they talk about 9 years, industry leader, the video, the news article. Can we talk about it? So the reader knows in the second sentence what this writer is after. There's no hopping around like, no, I'm busy. What do they want from me? It's not buried. And this is coming, again, out of journalism too. It's out of the military and it's out of journalism. Who knows the expression, don't bury the lead? Has everybody heard that before? That's journalism. That's an editor saying to the reporter, put the main point of the story high up so the reader finds it early, understands why the story matters, and will continue to read. Otherwise, the reader is on an aimless search, grasping for what the heck this is all about. It's a terrible sales strategy. And all of us, in our own ways, are selling something, a product, a service, or ourselves. So if we want that informational interview, if we want that coffee chat, if we want someone to look at our product to do a demo, we need to ask for it up front. You say, I'm writing you to tell you about X. I'm writing to ask you about blank. I'm writing to see if I can talk to you. I'm writing to see if we can meet. And here's why I'm worth meeting with. So we put it up front. I'm writing to blank. It makes a tremendous difference in all of our outreach. So when we combine the editing and the pruning that we've just talked about in the previous exercises, editing words, adding better words, cutting out pronouns, and then layering on bottom line up front, our email gets better and better. Our words, the words we use are right, and the way we structure the words are great too. So we are molding ourselves into a strong email communicator across any circumstance. It does not matter what is going on. These rules do not bend, and you can apply them each time. The bottom line up front, keep that in the front of your mind. Let's go to the last topic, and then given our time, we can do a Q&A or we can touch on a couple other things. Wasn't sure how long this would take to get through. Yeah, Fuller. Yes, there probably is a way to shorten this note. If I kept hacking away at it, yes. For demonstration, yes, there's always a way to shorten everything. And I'll be the first to say, if I really sat down with this again, I'd probably cut some stuff out. Maybe cut out the part about the short video. Maybe cut out a little section in the part in bold. It's absolutely. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that it doesn't need editing. It could. Everything could use more editing. Yes. Everybody could go back, and I still do this. The books that I've written, I go back through. It's brutal. I go back through every year-ish or so and look through and try to trim the fat. Was there a way that I wrote it back then that I could say it more succinctly now? Always. I'm going through our online curriculum right now in advance of next fall. And I am reducing the word count in spots where I had written it once, a little too onerous, went on a little long, chopping it down. At some point, as an author, as a professional, we have to be comfortable pressing send. But that we can all, when there's something that's sort of evergreen or that we're kind of working at, or people are consistently looking back on, always go back and just keep working it down. Yes, my good question. I do recommend bold. It's a good approach. It draws their eye to what you need them to see, and it's actually a part of our final lesson in just a moment on recapping a meeting and speaking to your team. The use of bold when done in small ways has impact. I don't think it's being too brash or loud. The entire message being in bold is annoying. Everything in all caps is annoying. But yes, and Ari, yes, you could have put bold at the very last line too. If you want to talk, let me know if you want to talk further, kind of hitting bold twice. Sure. I think if you do it sparingly, it will make a difference. And Allison, that's a great question. We're going to talk about that next. I also think that in small ways, very small, highlighting is also okay. And we'll talk about that. This is great. You kind of dovetailed right into the last thing we're going to talk about, which is using those strategies to speak to your own team as an example. So let's talk about that. So let's talk about recapping the team meeting. The Zoom chat, someone's got to take those minutes and send it out. Like, what the heck did we all just do? Hold on a second. Okay. Subject line, recap of conference call, meeting, phone calls, Zoom on month and day. Be precise. If somebody had to go back in their email and find your email, put the month and day. So they're clicking on the right message and they know it's the one that they were looking for. Hi, everyone. We had a solid meeting today about name the project, Acme Theme Park Construction. Name it. Not about solid meeting today about that project or about all of that. Nope, name it. Let's keep everything rolling so the project stays on track. And then whatever kind of the biggest ticket item that came out of the meeting, put that first. The top concern right now is the data set about projected crowd sizes on the various rides. Again, Alicia from Acme expects us to show her the data by Friday, June 8th. Let's make that agenda item priority number 1. So you're starting off with that bottom line up front. What matters most? What's most pressing or bubbling up the most right now? That's our big issue. Okay, and also notice, don't write by Friday, right? Because that's vague. We always want to, as much as possible, attach the date on the calendar to that day of the week. Because somebody would say, oh, I thought you meant next Friday. Friday is not enough. If you're setting up a meeting with somebody, you say, I look forward to our meeting on Friday, June 8th at 11:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Because they might think it was Friday, June 15th at 10:30 Eastern Standard Time. You don't know what's going through their mind. Maybe they had it wrong. And because you said it back to them exactly what it is on the calendar, they realize they had it wrong. Maybe you're both right and you're great. But it happens that there was miscommunication. If you just say, I'll talk to you Friday morning, and they're waiting for your call next Friday morning, right? And they weren't available at the time you thought they were. These are the little things. Little things that could screw up a whole project or a client engagement. Now, to the question that we just had from Allison and from Ari, I want to get back to that because it's great questions. So then after we talk about the biggest ticket thing going on for the group, then we're going to list out, these are the action items over the next few days, over the next week, or moving forward. Okay? Let people, and then we're going to do it as a bulleted list. Let people absorb every piece of information. And I recommend, and I did it here, to bold their names. Could you put them in highlight too? Yes, just their name, not the whole line. It's too loud, just the name. Brandon, we need your renderings for the Crazy 8 roller coaster by 5 p.m. today, parentheses Tuesday, right? Never assume. Never assume we know what today is, right? He may have checked that email tomorrow and realized he's a day late, right? Tia will check with the Acme sales team. Kevin and Gabe will go to Super Fun Park USA on Thursday, June 7th. Oops, sorry. Okay, and certainly you can add any humor. if you want to. And then let me know if there's any questions. I'll be at my desk today until 5:30 p.m., right? Could have said today, Tuesday. Said it once already. So the point is that we're clear about recapping the meeting, biggest ticket item first. You're talking to your team, call them out by name. So they can't say, oh, I didn't know you wanted that from me. Yes, I put your name in bold. Maybe I even put it in yellow highlight, like there's no way you missed it. It's on you if you missed it. And then there's another, strategy around coming back around on people to check on them that they did it, but in a way that's not like you're breathing on their neck, but that you're just making sure that they are on task. But this is the right out of the meeting. Here's what's next. Here's what we all have to do. It's somewhat of like a minutes of the meeting while also being action steps as well. And so I hope that, again, this model gives you some food for thought. And I believe deeply in bullets, lists and bullets. When you have to explain a lot of information, break it up. Never a big paragraph. Messages will get lost. People can handle bullets, not too many, 3, 4, 5, maybe 6, probably as far as you can push it on a certain topic. Then you got to stop because our brain's overloaded. But certainly people are going to find their name on that email probably faster than any other word in that email because you put it in highlight. We love seeing our own name. It makes us feel special. We all are like that, right? Seeing our name in print, we lock on. So, hopefully taking some of our strategies we talked about, our bottom line up front, being clear about next steps, highlighting people's names. I thought this would be a good spot to end on to show us what I'm sure we've all written these messages before. Not inventing the recap email after a meeting, of course, just giving some new thoughts, new approach, or just some tightening up of this age-old task that we have to do when we come out of a meeting or we're corresponding with a client. Here's what we intend to do this week. Bullets, blah, 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 blah. Right? So I know we're, Ellie, a little bit early. Let me wrap up these couple of slides. We can do a Q&A for the final 10 minutes. And if anybody has questions, we talk a million directions on email. Just wrap it in just a minute.
Sure, sounds good.
Again, as I said to the folks who've been on the previous webinars, for any educators on here, we do have a free email etiquette lesson plan that's been useful for distance learning the last several weeks. If you're interested, type interested in the chat and Ellie will send it to you. It's a Google Drive folder of some lessons similar to these or sort of in the same world. So if you're an educator here and you'd like some stuff to finish out the year, happy to send that on from our eMERGE online program. For the online courses, if you're interested in taking today and going the next step, we have 4 different online courses at store.rubineducation.com. Show you another slide in a second. And again, if you want to be part of our online community for young professionals, type Aspire with Rubin on Facebook, and we will. Okay, there. Oh, good timing. Thanks, Al. You dropped it at the very end of our session, so I'll read it in a minute and talk about your experience with Northrop Grumman. These are the 4 courses that we have on our site. And we've touched on job application. We touched on LinkedIn profiles in previous webinars. So if you're interested, you want to learn some more while you're home, check them out on our site, store.rubineducation.com. All right, let me read this. Let's all read for those of you who joined a little late, Alexander said he used our technique from the LinkedIn webinar we did a couple weeks ago and got a job at Northrop Grumman, which is great. So studying LinkedIn profiles, establishing meaningful connections, connect on a genuine level. I first established what traits I had to connect with those in Northrop Grumman. Graduate from UMD, United States Army, deployment in Afghanistan. Connections then would actually communicate. I did my homework. Real conversations were established, and I was directed to applications that were open. It would not have occurred if I just spam people, did not genuinely establish a connection. We have a strong base from going to UMD. Make sure you leverage your experiences to get connected. So you made it personal. You studied who they are, made a personal outreach, made it special and authentic, and that approach enabled a response. That's the whole game, right? There's nothing sneaky or complex about opening a door. We just have to be real with people as we want them to be real with us. We have to be genuine, approachable, a human, right? No games, no spin, no tricks. There are plenty of people on the internet who will give you all the tricks in the world, but all it's going to do is upset people when they feel like you are playing a game with them. And once they figure that out, they're going to shut you out forever. Okay? It's about being an honest person who is curious about other people. You will get so far in your career if you learn to be curious about other people. That door will open so fast when other people get to talk about themselves. Would you recommend creating a new LinkedIn account and starting over? No, I don't even know how you would do that. You've made one for yourself. It's your name, your picture. Just update how you describe yourself and just tweak your approach, reaching out to new people. You don't need to delete the account, and you shouldn't, because you have, a network you've built. You have people in your world. Just shift the approach. How can I be curious today? How can I learn about others today? If you start with that approach, a door is going to open, as it did for Alexander. And now he has a job. Tell us what your job is. What job did you receive? And quite frankly, getting a job during a pandemic, now that's saying something. Are there any other questions? Ellie, feel free to jump in. I know we got 8 minutes or so. Supply chain planner, excellent.
Yeah, it doesn't look like there's any other questions, but definitely want to give folks just another second if
Yeah.
they're typing in the chat box there. Just as another reminder, these webinars that Danny has put on are all recorded. So I'll send one final email to everyone with a link to all 3 of these webinars, again, with Danny's information, a link to his LinkedIn account, and ways to stay engaged with Danny if you have any follow-up questions. Doesn't look like there are any questions coming through, but anything else, Danny, that you wanted to say before we wrap up?
Yeah, just to wrap up, really these past 3 sessions. Thank you, Stuart. Appreciate that comment. Look, I'm never the smartest guy in the room, right? I don't have all the answers. All I can do is be a good person, to value somebody's time, appreciate them for what they do, be clear about what I'm asking for, and proceed in that direction. There are no secrets. There are no shortcuts. There are no games. Anybody out there trying to tell you that is trying to sell you something that you don't need, because these tactics we learn when we're children. These techniques we learn at an early age, and we need to apply them in our adult lives. But I hope that at the end of the day, what you've taken away from these sessions is treat people the way that you want to be treated. And if you do that, and if you live by that, the door will open. The opportunity will present itself, because people like being around people that they like. And that's really, truly the bottom line.
Awesome. Well, I'm sure you can see the chat is just blowing up with huge gratitude and thanks to you for putting on these
Thank
3
you.
sessions
I
and sharing
appreciate
your
it.
expertise, because you definitely are an expert here. So again, just another huge thank you to Danny, and huge appreciation to our members who tuned in, whether it was just once or for all 3 webinars. We really appreciate you and want your feedback so we can do things like this again. So big thank you again to Danny. Hope
Thank you,
everyone
everybody.
is staying healthy, staying safe out
Yeah,
there. And last but not least, go Terps.
you're the turtle.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.